right, gentlemen. The Premier League was back last night. It does seem a while when you have international break and then FA Cup.
It is a while.
And how was your holiday?
I could have done with longer, actually. Do you remember what I said about the Nations League and how I disliked it? You know what? It's not that bad.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest 1. Vish's Manchester United 0.
Did you play? It explains a lot.
Yeah. 9:57 on the Discord yesterday. I wonder if Vish is on tomorrow's record. A reply a minute later. I say Vish is on the bag after this.
On the bag?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Poor old Vish.
Yeah. You know what?
When are you going to admit that you should have supported Queen's Park Rangers?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes, I should have done.
There we go.
I should have supported my local team, even when QPR were languishing in League One, because that's how you should make your choices. You should get them when they're on the up. What I didn't realise with football supporting them is that you can't sell when they're on the way down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Impossible to do.
Just chuck them to one side and start again.
Could I? I should declare what is the fan equivalent of declaring bankruptcy?
Oh, good point.
You should be doing that.
I had a moment last night when Wimbledon were 1-0 up away at Swindon. They conceded 2 penalties in stoppage time to lose the game.
Unlucky.
And I thought, you know what? It's actually a release. I felt so tense about that we might mess promotion up for weeks, and now I know we've messed it up. I actually feel a bit relaxed.
I thought you said that you started to feel sympathy for Manchester United fans, and I was going to retaliate by being like, your club literally left you.
Yeah.
And he's feeling bad for us.
Yeah, and now we get this loser talk of, I'm glad we've jacked it in before the, go and get stuff. Blimey. I don't know if that makes you feel any better at all, Vish.
Yeah, delighted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you just have to justify it in your mind as suits you best.
Look, okay, I'll try and spin it a little bit better for Manchester United.
I don't think we need to. I think, Nottingham Forest were
narrowly edged out by high-flying Nottingham Forest.
They only lost 1-0, and of course the goal was from one of their former players. And what a goal it bloody was. Yeah. It's a contender for goal of the season. Some people would already have it down as goal of the season. Vish, what do you think?
I don't know. We've had some... it depends if you like a dribble or a banger. I like a banger.
Why can't you like both, damn it all?
You can like both. If he'd taken it earlier, he would have set aside the criteria for both the dribble and a banger.
Yes.
But no, it was a brilliant goal. I mean,
it looked like he was on fast forward.
Yeah, you said that in the group, and it looked like all the United players were being rewound. They've
been paused.
In Tenant, when like one person's fighting someone the other way and one person's fighting them in the reverse, and it's really choreographed, and it's like, it's widely accepted as like a brilliant scene of cinematography. But actually, when you watch it, it does look a little bit shit.
Oh, I haven't seen it, so I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, so that's a little bit. Manchester United's defending. It looks a lot like defending, but it wasn't quite defending.
Bit Doctor Strange, I think. That sort of which dimension are they in? Because clearly Elanga's in a different one to them.
He runs 85 metres with the ball, 7 touches.
Yeah, 9 seconds apparently. I thought to myself, get yourself down the Olympics, mate.
Yeah, Noah Lyles, come outside.
I know football boots are lighter these days, but still, that's pretty good, isn't it?
But with a ball at his feet, Andy.
Yeah.
Even
and the boots.
And the boots. You've got to do with the boots. That was a bit Trump. You got to do with the boots. I say the boots. I say the boots. You got to do with the boots. The best boots. Even if he made that run just on the wing, trying to get into the box, it would have been impressive.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he's got players, albeit attacking players, who shouldn't have to run back and track him, trying to tackle him.
And he did. What I thought he did really well was, you could say he used Morgan Gibbs-White as a decoy, but there's obviously a window when it's, if you're defending that, you reasonably expect him to pass the ball to Morgan Gibbs-White. Yeah. And because of the speed he's going at, that window closes very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was quite decisive because he could have pawned it. He could have kind of like palmed it off onto Gibbs-White. And sometimes you see strikers do that. Was like, okay, now it's your problem. I've lost my chance. But actually, because he's so efficient in all the touches, and it's a lovely finish. He didn't actually smoke it, did he? He kind of guided it into the corner with his weaker foot.
It was a beautiful finish, And had he not have scored.
Oh, God, yeah.
You've got to score. But
that's why we sold him.
Yeah. With Gibbs-White there. But I think, though, that sometimes when a player, and I could only assume this, running at that speed, you've got the momentum. So to try and then make the pass might be actually a little bit more tricky because the ball, the way you're striding and running. So, again, of course, if he missed, everyone's have a crying out loud, there was your man. But as you say, Gibbs White is important in that goal because he gives himself the option. He gives Elanga the option, but also, as you say, makes that little bit of room for him and he tucks it away.
But they're so skilled on the counter-attack.
Yeah, well,
it's not the first time they've done it this season, is it?
No.
I think the Elanga thing is quite interesting because obviously it was put to Ruben Amorim afterwards. Does this tell us something about United's weakness in developing players? And he just went, well, I haven't got time to develop anything at the moment. We need results now.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant.
The only thing that he's getting a lot of practice in is press conferences and how to deal with the press when they're out against you and things.
He's doing a lot of squats as well. He's always on his haunches.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. I mean,
his arse is going to look amazing when he gets sacked.
It's good to keep the spirit of Andre Villas-Boas alive in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Bielsa as well.
But you see, Amorim has got further foresight, hasn't he? Because he's wearing tracksuit trousers rather than a very tight suit.
Very clever.
I think the tension of AVB at Chelsea was thinking, when's it going to split?
Yeah.
And actually, the first first high-profile coach I can think of that split a tight suit was Zinedine Zidane.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, could it get any worse for Amorim? Because not only is he having to constantly defend his methods, and we'll get onto that in a bit, but also, the team of shitting themselves every which way. But also, I was thinking, how could it get worse? And maybe actually splitting his trousers could make it worse.
Yeah. Some sort of personal humiliation.
Yes, yeah.
If he soiled himself, that kind of thing. That's kind of where we are, though. The win for Forest meant that they have completed the league double over Manchester United for the first time since 91-92. Obviously, that is a correct stat, Andy. Hence, we're reading it out. But I mean, they haven't had a chance to do it that much in that time, of course, but it's still something. And do you still, Vish, when that stat, we felt compelled to say it, and a lot of people were talking about it, and I think Forest fans were quite pleased and reminded themselves of that. Do you still feel like, I think Manchester United still are a big club? We're still seen as a bit of a scalp. Does that make you? Is that the consolation you were looking for?
People are gloating when they knock you out. Oh, well, at least he enjoyed himself.
Yeah, well, do you know what I mean though? Because if they do the double over a lot of other teams, they probably wouldn't really notice.
But you know what? I remember we talked about this maybe about a month ago, and in fact I don't think I was on the show, but I think it was used as a point of reference about Moyes' first season at Manchester United, when people were like, oh God, we can go to Old Trafford and get something. And I'm not going to say that got boring very quickly for other teams, because evidently it didn't. But with
it's still not boring.
But with teams like Nottingham Forest, and say Brentford,
they didn't get theirs.
Or Brighton, who weren't in the Premier League during Manchester United's glory days. There is a bit like, oh, okay, well, God, we can get our pound of flesh here as well. Brilliant.
And a big old pound of flesh it was. And we talked about Forest, as a lot of people have a number of times, in this sort of calendar year, you may say, maybe even slightly further back than that, in that people were saying, in the second half of the season or the final third of the season, when the going gets tough, can Forest hold on? And one thing that we often talked about was their playing style, which should lend itself to getting over the line being Champions League qualification. Yeah. There they are in third. They're now 8 points above Chelsea. Okay, Chelsea have a game in hand in fourth. But you saw that last night, Andy, that they get the goal on the break. And then, again, that style of football where they just pack the box, they park the bus, they park every single bus in the Nottingham area in front of that goal. And really, Amorim said he was forced to put on Harry Maguire up front for a bit of chaos factor to try and get a breakthrough, because Forest are so tight at the back.
It must be really weird if you're Renan Lodi sitting out there in Saudi going, oh, what are you doing the Atletico Madrid bit this season? I could have done it. I would have been perfect for that. But it's funny because I think they might have defended it with a little more comfort. A, if it hadn't have been for them flanking Harry Maguire on towards the end. But B, if Chris Wood had been there, because their ability to have a focal point to take the pressure off wasn't really quite there. Now, Awani has been very good for Forest in the past, but through circumstance, through Chris Wood being so good and through injury stuff, he's not been quite that player this season. So I think that they managed to get through this when they didn't have, and obviously because of the goals he scores, the defensive side of Wood is maybe not sort of focused on that much, but having an out ball is something you really need in a game like this, and they didn't really have that so much. So it kept coming back at them, especially in that last 15 minutes, didn't it? So for them to be able to, as you say, completely defend their own box, albeit with a few little scrapes here and there, I think was really, really impressive.
Well, it was, yeah. I agree. We know this from Forest as well. Vish, they've kept an enormous amount of clean sheets this season, with Sells in goal as well. He's been very, very good. Although, other than when Harry Maguire came on the pitch, didn't really have too much of a bother. But again, that style of football they have, people talk about the exhaustion of going into that final third and so on. Again, their game plan, I always felt that it was going to serve them well in this business end of the season.
Well, because there's an element of energy conservation about it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
But you know what you're doing. And, he's rotated the players in the cup, the one cup competition where they've gone quite far as well.
Yeah.
So I think they're all set up. And I think that if anybody was doubting, can Forest keep it up? Can they keep doing it? They keep answering that now, really, with these performances, with these wins. Because, as I say, they have a decent cushion. At this stage of the season, to have that cushion, I think it's very impressive.
Well, especially when you bear in mind that it's the top five.
Yes.
They're in a great position.
Yeah, and the whole mood around the place as well. I mean, Ryan Yates on Champions League qualification, I don't want to say, as football is so cruel, but we're having a great season. They're all there. They're all excited by this. It doesn't strike me as the nerves are in and they're thinking, right, we've got to hold on to this. It feels like they're going, yeah, we want this.
It's almost a Leicester-ish momentum, isn't it?
I was just thinking that, yeah, yeah. Without necessarily the anxiety that was evident in the end of that Leicester campaign, where they were like
1-0.
We've only got one shot at this. This will never happen to us again.
Yeah.
Whereas with Forest, this feels more sustained, doesn't it? In part because of how they're playing, in part because of the performances. I think it was Steve Sidwell on Sky Sports News who made this point about, for example, Chris Wood's injury and what's it like to be in a squad that's playing well. And he made the point of sometimes you have that not anxiety, but sometimes you have that sense of feeling wronged by not playing. But the way what Forest are doing at the moment across, all competitions, looks so fun that if you're from the outside, it's like, I can't wait to get a piece of this.
Yeah.
I love my 20 minutes, my 15 minutes here and there. Or if it's coming in for someone who's injured and stuff like that, Marino's going to do with Olaina out. But there's a feel-good factor at the club that is governed more by what happens on the field. Obviously, started off the field, but now everything happening on the field is fueling that sense of fun, really.
Well, yeah, you can't argue with it too much, can you? Because of the position they're in and the unlikeliness of being in that position, especially at this moment or this stage in the season. Mention for Murillo, who's having a great season. That last gasp clearance off the line from Harry Maguire was greeted like a goal, really, quite frankly.
And how unusual is it for a player to think, oh, thank God I'm not playing for Brazil this week?
It was when they were, I think he was hugged by 5 players, and I thought, take the throw in quickly.
Yeah. Do you know what, though?
Mixer.
I'll tell you what, Vish, when Maguire went up front, I thought to myself, okay, I'm no longer a neutral in this. I would have loved it. He was so close, wasn't he? I know the head was slightly behind him. I thought he actually did okay with that one that was cleared off the line. I thought he did all he could.
I mean, it's quite damning, isn't it, that he was far more, he was far more influential in that part of the field than Højlund, for example.
It was, but I enjoyed how unapologetic Cameroon was about it afterwards.
Yeah. It's weird to have a game plan that's a really ineffective version of Release the Kraken. Just get him up there. Get the man with the massive head. Just chuck him up there.
It was Manchester United's 13th defeat of the campaign. One more would equal last season's record.
Brilliant.
Something to play for.
Consistency. And how did it end with silverware? So.
And funny enough, you wouldn't rule it out again, would you?
No.
Yeah, you might, but maybe not. Well, yes, of course, Elanga, former Manchester United man, was the difference. And another former, well, he's still on the books, of course, but Anthony is currently on loan at Real Betis.
They hope former.
Well, indeed, because interestingly, Andy, a little Anthony update for everybody. Betis midfielder Isco has said that the club should start a crowdfunding campaign so they can afford to keep the Brazilian winger Anthony for another season. Isco said, we have to do crowdfunding to see if we can make him stay for another year. To be honest, he has surprised everyone with his humility, his determination to help us out and support us, and we have noticed a change since he arrived. It must feel like a holiday. I mean, this is just ridiculous. You see Rashford at Villa, you've got, McTominay, another one who's fighting for a Serie A title.
But the thing is,
it's damning for Manchester United. You can't look at it any other way.
I know there's been a massive uptick with Betis since he's been in there. So not only are they in the mix for the Conference League, they are now leveling on points with fifth. They've won 6 games in a row in La Liga. Fifth will probably be good enough for Champions League.
How many man of the match awards has he had already? At least 2. We know he got at least
several.
2.
So we're looking at Anthony qualifying for the Champions League. We're looking at McTominay qualifying for the Champions League.
Rashford's going to win it this
Serie A
season.
title. Yeah, Rashford already back in the Champions League.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. It's like an accelerated version of, Danny Kelly keeps a list of the players who've won trophies since they've left Tottenham.
Right.
Since Tottenham last won a trophy.
Yeah.
I think we're in the 90s. In terms of players winning trophies. So,
what, 90 players or 90 trophies between
90
them?
trophies.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should clarify that, yeah.
I think in Sir Jim's interview with Gary Neville, he referred to the players returning back from loan as new signings. In terms of that's the money is gonna, whatever money there is for bringing new players into the club, some of it will be taken up when they return when those loan players return to Manchester United. And I like the idea that the rest of the squad are like, what's it like out there? It's like, it's so sunny. It's so nice. Yeah. They give you lunch as well.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
It's kind of like a doomsday scenario for United, isn't it? Yeah. Like if they can't find a way to permanently get rid of Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, all of a sudden they've got a massive problem this summer.
I said this a while ago and people thought I was joking. Fold the club.
Yeah.
Fold it.
No one would think that.
Just fold the club. Turn it into a brand. It works for Arsenal every now and again. Just fold the club. Fold it.
I mean, you managed to get a dig at Arsenal in there and cheer it all.
No, won yesterday. Having a lovely old time.
Yeah, and we should say, though, that Aaron Wan-Bissaka obviously left Manchester United in the summer, and him and West Ham did lose 1-0 at Wolves last night. So it's not all roses for those who leave the club, of course.
Can't be taking shots out of people who leave United. Him and
McTominay, though, played a blinder. Win the FA Cup, right? He's never going to get any better than this. Yeah. Get out of there. Coming up after this, 4 trays of eggs are given to a player in Norway.
Only Antonio Portales in front of him, but the Mexican is an absolute wall there. Donald Trump would be proud of that.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble. Dundee TV on Donald Trump there. Now, Arsenal 2, Fulham 1. What a shame. But Bukayo Saka scored just 7 minutes into his return after 101 days out with a hamstring injury. Lovely, Andy. Lovely to see that beautiful boy smiling again.
It was.
You were there yesterday, weren't you?
I was, yeah. And the reception for him was huge, absolutely huge. And it was just great, really, to see. I mean, I think the thing is, obviously, Arsenal have got a number of injury issues at the moment, and we'll come to the most recent part of that in a minute. But I think not just the boost that Saka gives the whole place, but the fact that a player who's needed a rest for a really long time has had an enforced rest.
Yeah.
If he comes back and they can use him right, he could have a massive impact on the back end of the season. I sat there going to Jim, like, the plan is give him 25 minutes tonight, 25 minutes at the weekend, and then this time next week he's tearing the back out of Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And then, come the end of the season, wrap him in cotton wool for the summer, and, he goes from a running start at the start of next season.
No Club World Cup is a massive help, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that sincerely. I'm not saying Arsenal are kind of whittling the hours away for the rest of the season, because obviously they've got that huge game against Real Madrid. But for someone like him to have been out for so long, I'm kind of just riffing on Andy's point here, but also to be able to know that, right, you are going to be fit as a fiddle come the start of next season, which is when we not turn this around, but it's when we have to take that next step, is so big.
That's the thing with Saka. I mean, it's easy to say, you should rest him. He needs to be given time to breathe, all the rest of it. The thing is, he's so unbelievably good. He's prone to overuse.
Yeah.
And because he does everything, because he covers everything, because he's like a Swiss Army knife in an attacking sense, because he does his defensive shift, all of it is really too much for anyone. But you just have to lean on him.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Plays every England game as well. He's a starter for England.
Yeah,
so there's that burden as well, that load.
But I guess what's really happened for Arsenal, if we look at, say, go back to last season with the difficult back third of last season for Liverpool, you think, actually, with all those good young players getting more experience that they're playing for, that's actually quite handy for their future. And I think with Ethan Nwaneri having more football than he could have reasonably expected in the Arsenal first team and looking completely ready for it, he was great again the last night. I think the fact that they don't have to rush Saka back, that they can rest Saka in some games. Now, look, it's a lovely problem to have when you look a little bit further down the line to next season and beyond. How do they fit them in both in the same team? How do they fit those two and Odegaard, who's had his difficulties this season, in the same team? That's something you can think about later down the line. But what a great thing in the short term, the fact that as Saka gradually comes back, they don't have to flog him. And I think if you look at Fulham, if you look at Arsenal's win in this, which I think is absolutely key, and the win against Chelsea, if we go back a couple of weeks, those are so important because I think since Arsenal had sort of fallen out of the title race, and we said this, me and Jim were talking about this just before the Chelsea game at the Emirates that they won. It was easy to say, because we had it in our minds that, right, they're out of the title race, but they're finishing second. They're the second best team. But actually, if they'd have lost that Chelsea game, Chelsea would have been only 3 points behind them. Now, these wins against Fulham are another team that are in the Champions League mix.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. By getting these wins, they've given themselves the breathing space to be able to take some pressure off some of those players for the league matches around the Champions League games, which I think is absolutely key, because you look at it, they can give Real Madrid a go. Now, it will be difficult because of the injuries that they've got, but they really can give them a go. I mean, we just saw Real Madrid squeak through in the Copa del Rey semi-final last week. 4-4 draw in extra time at the Bernabeu with Real Sociedad was incredible. So just in case you'd missed the memo that Real Madrid can be got at, Real Madrid can be got at. And if you look at Saka coming back, Martinelli returning to form, he was brilliant last night. I thought he was the man of the match.
Gabriel getting an injury. 1 in, 1 out, Andy, come on.
Well, Timber as well. I think
Timber
he
as well.
I mean, that's the problem. Obviously, defensively, they've got a massive issue.
Yeah, what I was going to say though, that building on Andy's point there about Arsenal getting these crucial wins, Vish, we've as neutrals, well, certainly from my point of view anyway, we slightly bemoan the fact that there's not really a title race, and you think, oh, come on, Arsenal, you keep pace with Liverpool. As time goes on, have we framed it maybe not necessarily incorrectly, but the picture is perhaps a bit bigger than maybe what we thought, because Arsenal, okay, they're 4 points above Forest. It would be inconceivable to think Arsenal would finish outside of the top 3. We're all expecting them to hold on to that second place. With the injuries that they've had, and also the squad. Now, you can criticise the transfer dealings, fine. But once the season starts, really, that's what you've got. So in terms of Arteta and the footballing side of things, the fact is they probably will finish second, cementing the fact that they're the second best team in the country. Liverpool have had a very, very, very good season in the Premier League, no doubt about that. They only lost 1 game. Salah's playing like a man possessed, one of the best players we've ever seen in the top flight in English football history, you would go as far to say. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Have we failed maybe to give Arsenal a little bit more credit for, again, all things considered, cementing themselves as the second best team? I know people think we don't get a medal for finishing second, fine, but it's still an achievement of sorts. I think we look at the fact where Arsenal are and think, come on, when are you going to kick on?
Yeah.
But all things considered, are we maybe lacking a little bit of credit towards Arsenal's way? Or is that a bit too generous?
I know what you mean, but I think it's just the byproducts of finishing runner-up. It's a thing. It's like the thing they say about the Olympics. The best medal to win first up is gold, and the second best medal to win is bronze.
Yeah, okay.
You can't sell it endlessly. The thing is, under Arteta, there's been this feeling of progress, and this has been the first season where that notion has been sort of challenged. Okay. And, of course, it's accentuated by the fact it's always felt as if Arsenal were the team ready to receive when City dropped the ball. And City dropped the ball big time, and Arsenal haven't been ready to receive for whatever reason.
And I think a lot of the... I think we have given them credit to a point, but I think it's harder to square this season because of how off the cuff Arsenal were last season and the season before as well, and how they're so much more predictable this season.
Yeah, they're definitely more exciting to watch.
Yeah, and it feels like if they and this is we're talking about an ideal world here, but if they marry those two things up, they're challenging. They probably do win the league actually this season. All right. But yeah, it's as Andy says, it's like thinking, right, fine, Man City fell off, we've got nothing to worry about, and Liverpool just sneak in and have a whale of a time. Something
we can all get behind, though, that did excite us, and I think perhaps has been lost in the Bukayo Saka goal, because Saka scores it, that Martinelli assist.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
You took a moment to think about it, didn't you? Because you're thinking of the goal, but that Martinelli assist with a little flick on, that's Harry Wilson-esque.
That's the thing, because he kind of... I mean, that was what the Fulham fans were singing.
Yeah.
You were just to shit Harry Wilson.
Yeah, because he didn't score it. But it was a beautiful bit of play.
Yeah, and he sort of starts that move by going past a couple of players and playing in Merino on the left-hand side. And that was like Arsenal's front part working as you would want it to work with the players that they've got present. But yeah,
better from Martinelli as well, which will be
much better.
Which will certainly be a welcome thing for Arsenal fans.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the defensive thing is obviously an issue, especially when you bear in mind that Kylian Mbappe, who didn't start last night, just like he didn't play the first leg against Real Sociedad in the Cup, is fresh and in great form at the moment. Now, the Gabriel thing was weird because it was clear he'd done his hamstring straight away. He went down. He was in a bit of distress. The ball didn't go out for like 3.5 minutes afterwards. But that's one of those things. I think if there's something that Arteta and his staff could have done differently, probably about 10 minutes after that in the first half, Timber went down, and you're thinking, look, if he feels anything, get him off. And they gave him some treatment. He went back on. He didn't look super comfortable. He got back to the rhythm of the game. And then he goes down in the second half after the second goal. And you think at that point, I know it's a bit of a risk because like Partey's not super comfortable at right back, but surely they need him for next week for Real Madrid. I mean, if Timber doesn't make Real Madrid, I think it's pretty safe to say that Gabriel's not going to make either of the Real Madrid games.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
But if Timber can't play, they'll have made a bad mistake, I think, in not taking him off when he immediately felt something.
What did you think of Fulham last night? I mean,
a little bit disappointing, if I'm being honest. I thought Arsenal played them very well, but it felt like in the first half, when up until the goal, Arsenal were quite tense. They only really created one proper chance in that time, and Fulham had the chances to create chances rather than actually creating any chances.
I mean, Muniz missed a sitter, didn't he? I know it was 2-0 at the time.
That was later on, and by that time, like Fulham created some stuff when it was 2-0, and by that point, the game's really gone. So I think in the first half hour, they had the opportunity to really do something, and that they were a little bit passive. If they'd have gone for Arsenal a little bit, and I know that's an easy thing to say because they're one of the best teams in the Premier League, of course, but if they'd made a little bit more and been a little bit of their counter-attacking opportunities and been a little bit more coherent on the counter-attack, Arsenal were tense. They could have made something of that.
Yeah. Well, they didn't, and Arsenal won the game. And the aforementioned Gabriel Martinelli was indeed awarded the Player of the Match trophy, which he gladly accepted. Of course, we used to have different awards for Man of the Match, didn't we? We've seen booze, CD players, bicycles even given out. And over in Norway, Bryne goalkeeper Jan de Boer was awarded Player of the Match for his performance against Bodo Glimt. A priceless victory for them. And his Man of the Match award was 4 trays of eggs.
I mean, it explains a lot about Erling Haaland, doesn't it? Because, of course, Bryne is his hometown.
Ooh.
So if he won, like, 4 trays of eggs, like, every week. No wonder he's such a big strapping lad.
Yeah, and he'd eat them raw as well, wouldn't he? All of them in one sitting.
Yeah. Well, apparently this is a nod to the local produce of the farmers out there. The fans sing, we're farmers and we're proud. And all this. I think this is the ground.
It's actually a farmers' league.
It's a farmers' league. It's a farmers' team.
Nice.
This is the ground where I air quotes VIP experience. You can sit in the
the hay bale on the
tractor.
On the tractor, yeah.
Yeah, you can sit there and watch the game. That's that team if you'd seen that.
I have to say, if you're a goalkeeper who's gone through the mill against the best team in the country, surely the last thing you want to receive is like a box of eggs. I mean, it's just like the optics are terrible, aren't they? If you're exhausted and you drop it.
Yeah,
save your hands are now.
Exactly, yeah. That's the point of it, isn't it? Like it's he's shown himself to be capable of dealing with.
That's not the point of the award. They've not thought to themselves.
I think it is. You scored a hat trick. What a marksman! Here's a gun.
Yeah. Is it loaded? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. Right.
You'd know, mate. You're the marksman.
Exactly. But apparently next week, or in the next game, the man of the match award will be cartons of milk. So. Yeah. Because it's a dairy farms.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I would think to myself, could you not give me a big milkshake?
I have to say,
give me a big bit of cow.
But one of the real ills in society is people putting milk in scrambled eggs. I think that's encouraging deviant behaviour.
Oh, I don't know. Have you tried it with creme fraiche?
You have to remember, Andy doesn't do dairy, does he?
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
Oh, do you check? I suppose you have to check, don't you, whenever you go, if you ordered it at cafe?
Andy, there are no substitutes. They say there are, but there aren't. It's a bit like, there's substitutes for meat and stuff. No, there isn't. Just have something else.
I've very much enjoyed returning to the 1980s. Thank you very much.
Well, it's lovely. That's where you did your best work.
It led into a great decade, didn't it?
Tofu's just that. No, it isn't. It's fine. But just don't say it's a substitute, right? Otherwise, I'll get you. Right, let's move on. Wolves 1, West Ham United 0. What a victory.
Who gives a shit? What is the point of this game?
I'll tell you who gives a shit. Vitor Pereira does. He's quite emotional after the game.
Oh, grow up, man. You're not getting relegated.
Outrageous.
An utterly pointless game between two teams who are fine. Absolutely fine.
Actually, it's not pointless, Vish, because it will make Wolves feel better about when they have to action the compulsory purchase clause for Jurgen Strand-Larsen, who's had a pretty good first season, I would say, in the Premier League. Because you think, there are bargains out there, and you're like, the clause is 30 million. That's what it costs these days to buy a guy who's going to score you a dozen goals in the Premier League.
To be fair, a dozen goals is all right.
It's like, yeah, it is, but the fact that there's no sense of value anymore. It's like the fact that it's impossible to get a can of Coke for basically less than £1.
Huh.
It's one of those things that's quite difficult to get your head around.
It's impossible to get tofu that tastes like beef, but there we are, Andy.
You've got to chill out with this.
I'm not advocating for tofu.
Yeah.
Right.
Mushroom's brilliant, a lovely kind of absorber of flavours.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, there you
also,
are.
good tofu is amazing, but we'll move on. Strand-Larsen is one of those players where I look at him and I think, you're not that fast, but he's not slow.
No.
And you're like, he does miss a few chances, but then he puts some quite decent chances away. He confuses me a bit. I welcome him at Manchester United.
We're talking about Nwaneri taking some of the pressure off Saka in the medium term. I think it's an interesting thing. If you look at Norway, they're going with this, and they have for a while been going with this big man attacking duo.
That's just the way they're built.
Of Haaland and
have the option of
it's all the eggs. It's all the eggs.
Even their little men are 6'1".
Exactly.
And then you've got as backup. You've got Jurgen Strand-Larsen. I mean, that's something, isn't it?
Balls into the box.
Do you think? I appreciate Wolves are only 17.
It's like they're breeding Harry Maguires.
All running into each other in the pen. I appreciate Wolves are 17, but do you think Strand-Larsen's also done that with Cunha in terms of it feels like Cunha now just has a bit of a free role?
Yeah.
And presumably because of Strand-Larsen.
His role will be so free that he'll go off to another team soon enough.
You don't even need me there, do you?
Yeah. Very much the Cunha has already bolted in that one. I mean, Cunha didn't play, of course. So good for Strand-Larsen to score and provide the winning goal, even though it was deflected. But as he said, I don't care if it took a deflection, the ball went in. So yeah, Cunha will be off. I mean, the clause in his contract is only, I say only, but I mean, you're talking about the value of stuff, 62.5 million, which for a player who has shown his Premier League quality, doesn't seem that much in this day and age in the Premier League. It seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's not going to be one of the highest paid players in the Premier League when he goes either. I think that's the key bit. Isn't it?
He does love a suspension, though.
He does. He does love a suspension. It was quite interesting. Like, he talked about it this week, and he said, "Well, I won't necessarily go. Like, I like it here." I think it's quite interesting because in his position, if he said, well, if he just like batted it away by saying, "We'll see what happens in the summer," like, no one would really hold it against him. But he explicitly didn't rule out staying, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, Wolverhampton's weird at the moment. It's got like a chokehold over all things, Portuguese or Portuguese speaking.
Yes.
I could see, I've said this before, I say it again, I could see him at Arsenal. He's that type of non-traditional forward player that they would like in their system.
I mean, it's exactly what they don't need.
I know,
I thought
in that sense.
I know, but I can't
think,
see Arsenal signing a proper centre forward though.
But that's where I think Andrea Berta is going to change things.
Lovely Berta will sort it out.
The idea of a sporting director who has different thinking to Arteta, that's exactly what Arteta needs at the moment. Now, as I explained on the OTC Monday YouTube video, it's funny because Berta's got quite a mixed record with strikers. Like, some have really worked out, but then again, he bought Joao Felix, he bought back Diego Costa, which was an absolutely ruinous deal for
Thomas Lemar.
Atletico. No, we're talking about centre forwards though, so that's different. But I like the idea, I think, of dropping a Gyökeres in there, someone who's like definably different from what they already have. I think is a much better idea than buying Acuna. And funnily enough, he'd probably be cheaper as well.
How about that? We should say, by the way, on Wolves, just to give them their props, and in particular, Vitor Pereira, who, as I said, was emotional after the game. We know this because he said, "I am emotional," and very proud of my team. He might not have said it like that though. He was very happy indeed, and he said, "Look, we can't switch off for a second." I would argue that they could, but of course that would be unprofessional if they did. So yes, I mean, I think there's more chance of Arsenal winning the title than Ipswich catching them.
Because also at the ends of the table that they're at, one team are at one side because they win games, and one team at the other because they don't win games.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
But the thing that I have to say about Pereira, Andy, is that before he arrived at Wolves, they'd conceded 40 goals in 16 Prem games. Since then, only Forest and Palace have kept more clean sheets. He has sorted that defence out.
He's done what he was brought in to do.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean he's the medium-term right choice for them, I would suggest. So it would not shock me.
Yeah, we've not seen the fireworks that we thought we might.
If no, we expected to see defensive improvement, and we have seen defensive improvement.
Andy.
Well, he's a bit chippy.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want? It's not close enough at the bottom to be anything more.
He can't really swing for anyone because there's no one within swinging distance, is there?
Yeah. So, you would expect, though, if he guides them to safety, which he will.
They'll keep him and they'll start next season terribly and they'll fire him halfway through next season.
There we are.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yeah. All right, coming up after this, Ryan Kent's given up on his crocodiles. Now then, we've got the small matter of the Merseyside derby tonight. Everton currently 9 games unbeaten and on their longest run without a defeat since February 2017. Vish, could it all come crashing down tonight?
Could this be?
Oh, yes, go on.
Could it?
Could it? A draw?
Could tonight be the start of a rejuvenation in the title race?
Really?
Imagine.
So if Liverpool lose, then Arsenal will stay just 9 whole points behind them.
And if Liverpool keep losing,
Arsenal would then need to win a few games.
Yeah, and that's the problem there, isn't it?
Right.
Because they've not been particularly trustworthy on that front. Every time Liverpool have slipped, Arsenal have slipped further. Yeah. But could it give us something?
All right.
Could it? OTC can't have all the fun for the rest of the season. We got to get something. It's a strange one.
If they lose, they remain 9 points above Arsenal.
Yeah, fine.
With 8 games to go.
But they
could draw them all.
Yeah. And still win. Yeah.
Got to go away to Fulham.
But who cares? They've given up, haven't they? They've lost their season in the space of 4 days. But
yours.
With regards to Everton and it's obviously true that they've not lost in 9 games. 4 draws have been their last 4 results, which is allowed. That is also a result. But I wonder, because they're on 34 points, they're comfortably, they're 17 points above the relegation zone going into this game. I do wonder if this is the ideal for them, going to Anfield and being like, you know what, we can actually have a go. How often at this part of the season have Everton been in a position to be like, why don't we try and flex a bit? Yeah. Especially in a game like this where the result takes on greater meaning than the points available. So I'm genuinely quite excited by this, because also you look at Arne Slot's comments yesterday in his press conference, and I feel like he's using this opportunity of the Champions League exit, clocked together with what happened in the League Cup as well, League Cup final, and then with the FA Cup exit was a bit further away. He's kind of combining that to almost be like, right, I need to work on, almost speaking in public during down times, and also putting a rock up my players, because I'm going to have to do that further down the line, because it's not all going to be as sweet as it has been this season. But I thought it was telling that he was already warning a squad who've done a lot right, that they can't just almost go in cruise control through the rest of the season, because that's how standards slip in the following season and stuff like that. So there is a lot riding on a game that maybe about a month ago looked like it was only going to be one-way traffic.
Well, it would almost help them if Arsenal was, say, only 6 points behind or something.
Well, in terms of holding their standards.
Exactly, yeah. Because, they've got to be careful of that. I mean, they were very flat in that League Cup final. I know Newcastle flew out the traps, but the fear was for Liverpool that after that PSG defeat in the Champions League, it really sucked the life out of them. They still have a Premier League title to win. Yes, it's going to go to Anfield. We're 99.99% sure of that, Andy. But tonight, though, could it almost be the perfect fixture for them to get back on the wagon?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And, I think to have a bit of a break after the intensity of what happened against PSG and Newcastle is no bad thing. To go away, to go their separate ways, to be able to think about it individually, and then to be able to think about it collectively and come back and refocus themselves. Because look, this will still turn out to be a great season for them.
Yeah.
To win the title in front of fans, as we said, because of course the first Premier League title and the first English title in ages was sort of behind closed doors. It's going to be absolutely huge, and this is the moment where they can really get the party kicked off, isn't it?
There's also something to be said for how bad the vibes have been around Anfield for the last 3 weeks, not least because of the Champions League exit and the League Cup exit, but also like all this noise around Trent Alexander-Arnold and the reaction to that, rightly or wrongly, from Liverpool fans. It's a massive, there is a degree of bitterness around the club at the moment that could, in some part, be alleviated by positive results.
Is it helpful that Trent Alexander-Arnold was not available for tonight?
Well, because he decided to go on holiday.
No.
Because he's packed it in already.
Yeah,
is that why?
Well, I mean, he's we'll see if he's going to play much at all in the running, of course. But I'm just saying that if he's on the pitch, I get a lot of questions about him. So the fact he's not there, they can concentrate on the match.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And it's helpful as well. The Gravenberch is going to be available as well. A crucial player for them this season. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think that what you said earlier about Moyes and Everton, yes, they can. He will spin it and say, look, this lot have been flat the last few weeks due to that PSG exit, really, you would say. Salah hasn't been firing for a couple of games now, which, of course, for most people, that's normal. For him, it seems to be quite an anomaly.
Yeah, totally. I think, really, I think just as Liverpool, we talked about earlier about the back third of last season, how that was difficult but sort of stood them in good stead. I think getting a sort of break on the euphoria of what, not just the results in the first half of this season, but the performances have really whipped up. I think everyone looked at Richard Hughes, the new sporting director, and said last summer, why hasn't he gone and bought any players? Like loads of Liverpool fans, particularly online, were kicking off about that. And it proved to be the right decision because, of course, they've bedded in that whole new midfield the season before, the summer before, and now they're a lot more stable in that midfield. But I think clearly they do have to make a few big personnel decisions, regardless of what happens with Van Dijk and Salah and Alisson. But I think this is making it easier for them to do that. You know, they're not going out there and shooting Bambi. You know, they're just gently evolving in a way that the last couple of weeks have made obvious that they need to do. So it's great to enjoy everything they've achieved, but it won't feel so heavy and it won't feel so difficult when they have to rotate the squad and change a few little things to make sure they remain in a competitive zone for next season.
Arne Slot has said that he hopes to act differently after he was sent off in the last Merseyside derby. I, for one, hope he doesn't.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. More of the same.
Yeah, more of the same, Arne. Manchester City hosts Leicester City tonight. And of course, Man City will be without Erling Haaland. They should have enough to beat little Leicester. But it is a bad one for Man City and Haaland as well, because it looks like he may be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Which is, you hate to phrase it like this, but that is a boost for the likes of Chelsea and Newcastle and Brighton, who are around.
It's pivotal in the Champions League race. It's absolutely pivotal. And I think it's funny, isn't it, where Guardiola says he hopes he'll be back for the Club World Cup.
Oh, my goodness.
Haaland's thinking, I really hope I'm not.
Haaland was thinking, okay, well, you know, much needed rest. Oh, that bloody tournament. Maybe I'll just... I don't know. I don't want to say that.
Say it on Uncut.
I might do. Man City fans apparently will be staging a protest at tonight's game. They will wait until the 9th minute to enter the stadium and take their seats. We're seeing more of this. Not that particular protest, but we're seeing more fan protests, aren't we?
Specifically on this topic of resale websites as well. I can't remember which club was the first trigger, but obviously like Chelsea have been part of it.
Yes. So I should clarify, Vish, that they are protesting against ticket prices and the fact City now have 9 agreements with various resale companies, the latest an official deal with Viagogo.
That kind of stuff is shameful, because you know how they make season ticket holders jump through hoops if they can't attend a game or something like that, or if they have to pay extra for cup games and stuff like that. And so to be basically like putting them in the hands of resellers who mark them up to the nth degrees.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pathetic.
Well, it's like touting is illegal unless we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy, that's exactly it. Exactly it.
There's a whiff of like kind of like government ne'er-do-wellness about this, in terms of like something's illegal, but oh shit, people are making a lot of money from that illegal thing, so we should do it and pretend it's legal.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not deal with the problem.
Let's be a part of it, and let's it's shameful, and like fair play to them, because they're absolutely being taken for granted there, and it's one of those things that only comes about when you know, clubs feel that they're bigger than the people who regularly come through the gates. They always want more.
Yeah.
And those, you know, regular supporters aren't giving them as much money as they want.
Now, I realise, like, City and are from a distance mocked about the, not just attendance, but the atmosphere at the Etihad. But, you know, this isn't just a City problem, is it? It's the fact that the Premier League is on the verge of potentially losing something absolutely massive, which is its atmosphere, which is something that has always attracted foreign visitors, which has always attracted audiences from around the world, which is something you notice on television, even if you never get to a game, is something that's a really difficult balance to strike, because no one's saying that tourists shouldn't be allowed to come to the games, but you have to protect what makes the atmosphere of Premier League football special. I think with the eye on profit and resales, I think these Premier League clubs are playing a very, very dangerous game.
They are alienating, and one could argue they've already alienated lots of fans.
Yeah.
And fans, their hand might well be forced to do more drastic things. I don't want to start encouraging certain behaviour and whatnot, but you know, they're protesting politely, shall I say, and you don't want it to go to the other side of the line with regard to protesting. You don't want to see any kind of ugly scenes. And one thing that people often say with regard to fan protests is, well, yeah, but you've got to completely, you've got to not show up to do the protest. I think that's asking a lot, personally, and I think that fans will say, no, hang on a minute, this is our space too. I'm not giving up because of these dickheads. But let's be fair, we've already seen what it's like when fans are not there with COVID.
Yeah.
Clubs have not learnt a pissing thing.
No, they've not.
Because of that. I thought to myself, and I think a lot of people naively thought, myself included, oh my goodness, obviously awful, pandemic, all that kind of stuff.
But they will finally understand.
But they'll understand what the fans mean, how important that football supporters are to this whole thing. Utterly crucial to it, in a way that I don't think, even as fans, we maybe even thought.
Yeah.
And I thought we all bought into that. And again, stupid of me to think that these bastards would have followed through.
You always think it's the start of a movement and it's just a fleeting moment.
Yeah. Well, good luck to the Man City fans tonight. And I wish all the fans doing all that kind of stuff very, very well indeed. Right. Let's finish with something a little more silly. We spoke a couple of months ago about former Rangers winger Ryan Kent, who was a former Liverpool player Ryan Kent, who was interested in a move to Iran due to their lax rules on keeping crocodiles as pets.
I love that as turning to your agent and being like, well, I've got this.
You take one, you take all.
Yeah.
Well, he's now signed for Seattle Sounders in Major League Soccer. But unfortunately for Ryan, it is illegal to own a crocodile in the state of Washington. So he won't be...
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do they not have green kits on their roster? I mean, surely there's some sort of camouflage element. Obviously...
Get the crocodile in the kit.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think blue trim would suit a crocodile.
I think people would spot it, Andy, and say, hang on, it's illegal to own a crocodile. And if he says, well, I've got two... No, that's still illegal. You can't just...
And then he'll be like, where's the other one? And then he'll be like, it's behind you.
Yes.
And then they're like, right, so can I keep the crocodiles now?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
will you die?
So he's going to threaten them.
He will. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
The really sensible move would have been like when he was in the Turkish Super League to just go to Bursaspor.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen their stadium with if you look at it from above, it's in the form of a crocodile.
What about Nîmes?
Oh, I thought you said it had a moat around it and they can just like chill out in there.
No, I just think you get it to sit on the roof. Like when the Lazio eagle when it first arrived.
Right, I see. Okay.
Obviously, we thought in the past that the eagle was traumatised having made the move from Benfica, but in fact it just didn't want to be near Juan Bernabé.
Surely Nîmes Olympique would have been the answer.
Yeah,
Andy.
there we go.
I thought you'd get that. Everyone's going, because their nickname is Les Crocodiles.
Les Crocodiles.
That sounds like a stand-up comedian from the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, well, stage, Les Crocodiles. All right, snappy, snappy, snappy.
Why doesn't he? He could trade in his crocodile for an alligator, couldn't he? Because alligators are more common in the US. Well, I thought they are alligators in the US. Not in the sense that it's
the
like...
opposite side of the country. They tend to be in Florida, which is obviously
yeah. But then, like, why don't you go to... Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you go to, like, Miami? Into Miami.
Oh, dear.
There we go.
There we are.
When I said it was like the American version, it's not like arugula that we call them crocodiles and they call them alligators. they're two very different animals.
Is it an elk or is it a moose?
Yeah.
Find out on Ramble Uncut.